Howdy, Scott Linden here with an insider edition of the Upland Nation podcast. Yeah, these are my bi-weekly kind of deeper dives into single subjects or just inspirational stories, maybe a hunting adventure or two. And this week, wanted to plant this in your mind well in advance of the season, because I know you're all planning some of this stuff already and for the upcoming fall. And it might be good if you would plan to go solo once. No, bring the dog for sure. But other than your dog, no hunting buddies at all. I'm going to try and make the case for hunting solo. And yeah, I understand there are arguments against it as well. But it is, to my mind at least, one of the most, I guess I'll call it, motivational and therapeutic ways to reconnect with ourselves and with the natural world, and also with our dog. So let's go solo together. Bear with me. I'll also have some practical advice beyond the more philosophical insights that I will suggest. And we'll take a look at a few things that will help you in this regard from a practical standpoint. Everything from what I carry in my vest that might get me out of a pickle here and there, to some planning aspects that will help you should you need help. All right, so let's start with a quote from one of my favorite authors, Aldous Huxley. He said, "The more powerful and original a mind, the more it will incline toward the religion of solitude." Yeah, so if you got a hankering to go out on your own, you're in good company. I'm not suggesting that we're smarter than anybody else, but if we're considering doing something like this, maybe we are at least moving forward towards becoming smarter. How's that? Huxley probably wasn't a hunter, but he could have been with an attitude like that. All of the things that he referenced are important. The order is not important. Solitude, originality, powerful mind. We can all use all of those, right? Well, hunting only with you and your dog is kind of an exercise in self-discovery. That's might be the best way to describe it. It's a chance to kind of find a new dimension to your hunting that is relevant to the rest of your life as well. And, we always do our best to follow most of the rules most of the time. Here is our one chance that weekend or that afternoon or that month to do something that is a little bit less conforming. And I'm not suggesting that it's a bad thing to hunt with other people. I love it. And it's one of the reasons we all go. But once in a while, to take the road less taken, it feels good in and of itself, and you will not regret it. So in England in particular, but throughout Great Britain, people in business have a phrase they use a lot: keeping your own calendar. In other words, you define your work schedule rather than work defining your schedule, your personal schedule. And you may be lucky enough, maybe you keep your own calendar at least part of the time. Maybe it's just, at the beginning of the year when everybody signs up for vacation days. But whatever it is, you do have some control. And on the days off, you have total control. For me, because I can go at the middle of the week or longer trips or whatever, it's easier for me to do a solo trip. But even for you, again, the reason we're starting this early in the preseason season is so that maybe you can control your calendar, keep it, and keep one of those days for you and your dog and nobody else. Works great for me, and most of my hunting buddies would agree. Not having me cooking dinner at the end of the hunt is a real good idea. But, there is some challenge here. Civilization is often not as civilized as we want it to be in this regard, scheduling spontaneity. So you better be ready to take advantage of it, even at the last minute, or do what I do sometimes. Think about scheduling your solo trips far in advance. That's my point. Could be anything that creates the opportunity. Somebody else's schedule has changed. They blew a head gasket, so they're not traveling over to you, etc., etc. That's okay, because the rest of the rat race will carry on without you. And you know as well as I, these days it's 24/7, 365. So when you get a moment to disconnect, take advantage of it, even if it's a short hunt close to home. One of the many advantages to hunting by yourself is all the hassles you don't have to put up with. Less than ideal hunting companions being one of them. You know that bumper sticker? Well, it started out as graffiti in ancient Rome. The more people I meet, the more I like my dog. Absolutely true. Sometimes. It's also a challenge for those of us who can keep our own calendar, let alone those who don't have total control over it, to find a partner, especially on short notice. It's Little League games, it's honeydew chores, it's making a living. Oh, yeah, and then I forgot about fishing. Well, all of those things can get in the way of your fellowship in the field, but all of those are also an opportunity for you to go by yourself, and you might want to think about them in that way instead of as an inconvenience. Other challenges, maybe your best hunting buddy has decided he just can't climb those hills anymore, or they picked up a golf club and that was the end of that. Or there's a boat in the driveway now. Whatever it is, the pool of hunting partners was shallow to begin with, and it's draining fast, especially as knees and backs fail us. So the choice to go solo may be voluntary or it may be compulsory, but whatever it is, it's worth considering. I'm Scott Linden. This is the Upland Nation podcast, one of our insider editions. We're talking about going solo, obviously. Appreciate your listening. And by the way, we're brought to you by CableGangz Stakeout Systems, CableGangz, CableGangz.com. So, there's something deeply organic in the idea of going by yourself, questing for prey solely in the company of your dog. Another species working as a team with one goal. Yeah, it's not critical now, but we hunt because deep-seated way down in our primal soul is the need to feed the tribe. I know, I apologize, it sounds a little zen, but it can be that. And if you've gone on your own before, you've felt it. Maybe you don't know that's what it was, but that momentary flash that connects you and your dog across the field. How do you describe that in words? You really can't, but you know the feeling, because when I talk with you, I'm not surprised that your responses are always kind of spiritual. I'm not suggesting you're going to get the message and the angel choir is going to sing when the rays of sunlight break through the clouds. But people talk about choosing their own path, getting closer to contentment. A listener years ago said, I get further from alone when I'm hunting by myself. Another one said, it's more pure. If you think about the deep down primordial reason we go, we have more chances to process, to think about, to absorb that deep need to hunt that is buried in our DNA. And as a former college band director, one of the things I like most about it is the quiet. You know what I mean? Well, I get to the top of a chucker hill, and after I miss a couple shots, I'll just sit and ponder, figure out why I missed them, and then admire the view. But while you're up there, you hear the wing beats of that raven as it flies by. You can, especially when you first get up to the hill, you can listen to your own pulse in your head. So maybe you're a grouse hunter, you stop, you listen to the wind rattling what's left of the aspen leaves. And is that crunch from the leaves over there, is that a gnome sneaking around over there? Well, whatever it is, that quiet is a balm for your soul. Are you feeling it? I sure am. Man, the hair on the back of my neck is standing up just thinking about this fall and those kind of things. Let me make a suggestion. Remember back to last season when you sat down on a boulder or you leaned against a tree and your dog put his head in your lap. Or another time when your dog trotted back, his eyes kind of downcast and his tail kind of just swaying a little bit. I won't call it wagging. Carrying the last bobwhite of the day, dropping it off into your hand. Sometimes that's an intimate moment that you don't want to share with anybody else. It becomes sweeter. It becomes more important to both of you if you're just there with your dog. Credit to T.J. Downs, one of your fellow listeners, who said, hunting by ourselves gives us time to really understand our flaws and limitations if we dare to. I'm not suggesting this is one of those therapy sessions where we admit all of our faults, but it does give us a chance to at least become introspective. And there are plenty of other rationale that are just as legitimate. Go where you want to go, when you want to go. Nobody's hacking your dog. His performance is always just fine. He's probably a little safer too, because you're not going to take any low shots, are you? You rest. You get up in the morning, eat, have coffee, take photos, all that stuff on your schedule. You talk about liberating. That's it, right there. You know, forget all that French Revolution stuff, liberty, equality, and fraternity. It's all about getting up when you want. You know, I'm not a big fan of the Bronte sisters, but Charlotte, in her book, Jane Eyre, said, "The more solitary, the more friendless, the more unsustained I am, the more I will respect myself." I think she's right. Now, I couldn't finish that book, but I did find that. So take yourself back to your last solitary hunt. You pulled into the driveway at the end of the journey, blistered, exhausted. Weren't you a better person than when you left? I did promise you some practical stuff, and before the break, let me touch on some of those things. This time around, I'm going to suggest that you don't do anything really stupid. If you're going to choose the road not taken, use a little bit of forethought and a bit of gear. I'll talk about my 10 essentials toward the end of the podcast. But there are some things that I'll mention now. Bring your mobile phone, of course, fully charged, maybe with one of those extra power sources. Make sure you have a good GPS and some sort of a locator beacon, in reach, spot, it doesn't matter. But if you're going solo, those things they're not an option. They are critical. Then do these things before you set out. Tell a responsible person where you're going. Leave them with a marked up map. Or do what I do now. Most of the time when I'm parked and I'm ready to go, I'll send a map pin on Google Maps to my spouse. I say, here's where I'm starting. At least then she'll have a latitude and longitude. So when she needs to call search and rescue, they know where to start. Make sure your dog is microchipped and also has collar tags with your mobile and home phone numbers. If you're not using a GPS collar, invest in one of those. And carry a dog first aid kit and an open mind. We'll have more philosophy if you're willing to listen. And like I said, some more practical advice coming up in the second half of this, the Upland Nation Insider edition of our podcast. That'll be coming up after a word from CableGangz. I know it's a funny spelling, but I think you'd get it if you met Brennan. Brennan founded the company because he's a trialer, and he's got a long string of dogs, and he needs to stake them out safely and comfortably. So he developed what I consider the best stakeout systems around. But that's not it. They've got more. Roading rigs that reduce shock impacts during your roading from an ATV or a UTV. Quick release systems for retrieving breeds. Roading harnesses, biothane collars with personalized nameplates. But their claim to fame is the most rugged and robust tie-out systems. Cold-rolled steel stakes with reinforced caps so that when you're reefing on those things with your mallet, it's not going to spread and then ultimately fail, either because now it won't swivel anymore or it just comes apart. Learn more about what they have and how it works and why they are my choice and have been for years. Go to CableGangz.com, CableGangz.com. And of course, when I'm hunting solo with one dog, my dog, that's what I'm down to, Flick, he's fueled by Purina Pro Plan Sport dog food. 100% complete and balanced nutrition. Meat is the number one ingredient, and it tastes great. Hey, I've asked. He loves it. You ever watch your dog eat? If they're eating with a frown on their face, and you can tell, maybe it's time for you to switch to Pro Plan Sport. You want to learn more about all the formulations and all the science that comes into play, go to ProPlansport.com. Okay, welcome back to the Upland Nation podcast, one of our insider editions. I'm Scott Linden. Glad you, hopefully you're getting inspired for this season to block out a day on your calendar where you hunt with nobody else but your dog. Going solo. You know, it's a test in a lot of ways. Most of you know I was a musician in a previous life, and you know, I loved playing in bands of all sorts, from Oktoberfest to Oompa bands to symphony orchestras. But there is nothing like going it alone, walking onto the stage, one light on the spot where you're to stand. It really changes your entire perspective. I'm not suggesting that you perform on your solo hunt, but I'm suggesting that a solo hunt is, in a lot of ways, a performance, I guess, in your mind. So where were we? Okay, so let's get back to some of the introspection and practical mixed together. So you're going to one of those out of middle of the nowhere hunting spots. And you want to be careful about that, because if you lose yourself in your thoughts, you're still lost. And you might have given up some of your self-awareness, your, what do they call it? Situational awareness. But there are also some practical benefits. Don't have to worry about somebody waking you up in the middle of the night in the tent because they snore too loud, or vice versa. You can eat whatever you want for supper, even beans. You can take credit for every hit and all the misses, but no one's seeing them except your dog. You are your own person. Staying in a hotel, dogs get the run of the room. You can stay up as late as you like, or you can go to bed at 7:30. No other dog is stealing your dog's points. There's no argument about who's retrieving what. The risk of a dog fight? There is none. And when you're driving to and from, you pick the soundtrack and can turn the volume to 11 if you like. Now, Flick's kind of like, he likes that Americana, outlaw country, and red dirt music. But whatever it is, your dog's going to like it just as much as you do. And you won't have to please anybody else's tastes. I like what one of my listeners a while back said to me about hunting by himself. Joe Bradley said, a one-person hunt lets the dog have the pure joy of what he was bred to do. And for me, to have the good fortune to witness it. That needs to go in a frame on the wall. Thanks, Joe. Yeah. We all know dogs are social animals, but I wonder if they'd prefer just their pack leader's company, without the distraction of other members of, a pack of the day or their other longtime hunting partner dogs. A solo turn, probably more rewarding than sharing the spotlight for your dog as well. And if you doubt that, try it for a while and watch your dog. Watch how he moves. That look of excitement, unbridled enthusiasm when the entire field is his to explore. He's performing for you and you alone. That's pretty cool. There are people in this world who would call us selfish for not wanting to share a field or a long weekend. But I can also lay a bet that they're not hunters. They've never wandered alone along an old abandoned skid road, listening for a bell in the distance, for example. They've never weighed the the fullness of heart that you get out there against the grinding demand of all the other days of the week. You've joked about it, so have I. Hunting may be the cheapest form of therapy. Henry David Thoreau said, even the best company becomes wearisome. You got to meet others' expectations, whether it's bringing the right brand of beer. It's dissipating, Thoreau says. I don't know if I'd go quite that far. I'm enervated by so much of the company I share. Maybe I'm just lucky. But if you think about Thoreau and Walden Pond, where he spent months alone, maybe we should take a look at a map and find our own Walden Pond and drive there and go hunting. Now, don't do anything stupid. Part 2. Or many things. That's me. If you travel alone, you better realize your limitations. I remember the darkest place in the lower 48 states. I was at the top of a Chucker Hill and I was heading down. I jumped off a little rise. It was a miniature cliff, maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet high. Landed a little funny on one leg. And as I recovered from that minor stumble, I realized that could have broken something really big, like a femur. There was no cell phone towers. There were no paved roads. I would have been there a while, or had to crawl my way down. So don't do anything that you think might get you into trouble. There'll be enough accidents that you can't anticipate. Act on all the things you can before you need to call for a helicopter. Yeah, there's some practical downsides as well. All your photos are selfies. Some birds get away unscathed because you don't have another guy shooting with you as well. And if you forgot something, it's forgotten well and truly. Nobody's going to bring your lunch back from the truck. Or nobody remembered that extra bottle of water for your dogs on a hot day. Dog power can become an issue if you're hunting with just you and your own dog. And everything from fuel to hotel rooms costs twice as much because no one's there to share those costs with you. But I'm not suggesting those become barriers to hunting by yourself. In fact, just the opposite. Somebody once said, I hunt with someone for a witness to those I can't believe that really happened moments. And she was right. When you don't have a witness, the fulsome camaraderie of shared goals and similar outlooks is absent. There's no teamwork involved. You know, I've used the analogy before. When we were cave people, you know, we were able to bring down a mastodon only because 32 of us were shoving spears into their side the whole time. You needed a team. Or maybe you just needed to connect with your long-lost brother or share a last hunt with a granddad. Now, when you go solo, all of those have to be put off, at least temporarily. And they all have value, but when you weigh those costs versus the emotional benefits of self-regeneration, you'll be better off on all those other experiences once you've had your own solo turn. We inherently have a need for inner calm, and that's one way to get it. I'm Scott Linden. This is the Upland Nation Podcast, Insider Edition. I told you we'd dive deep at some point, and here we are. We're talking about all that stuff that comes from taking a hunt all by yourself with just a canine companion. It would be cool when your dog does everything right to say to your buddy, hey, look at that. Your dog's kind of quivering on point as he kind of side eyes you, hoping you'll get in there in time to boost the bird up and get a shot. But sometimes you can say that same thing to yourself and savor the moment. Just with you, your dog, the birds, the sky, and if you have one, possibly your God. As the commercial goes, priceless. And you've had it happen, that deep sigh as your dog settles into the passenger seat, homeward bound, after a long day hunting with you and nobody else. You know, and you have the touch. I don't know what about your dog, but mine is right underneath his ear. Give him a little scratch. That really means thank you, good job. Now, some of that won't happen if somebody is in the passenger seat fiddling with the radio. One more reason, that afterglow that comes following all the hard work and emotional roller coaster of hunting by yourself. Yakking about last night's game, giving or receiving shooting advice, helping pull porcupine quills, those are all useful reasons to bring somebody else along. There are plenty others. But the world is full of stimuli. We're overloaded. I'm afraid to guess how many commercial messages we get in a day now. And that's just commercial messages. That's not counting all the other important stuff. Amongst all of that, the blessings of solitude and reflection, you can't put a dollar sign next to that. Cementing the bond between you and your dog, which also leads to reminiscing about the dogs that are long gone, friends no longer able to hunt. Those too are priceless. The wisps of emotion don't come as readily when someone is tugging at your sleeve, figuratively or literally. They come when you have the opportunity to open your mind and let things just drain in at their own pace. Hunting with just your dog takes you to a more primitive time when instincts, interdependence, and teamwork melded two disparate species into one team. And no matter how smart his phone is, a human hunting buddy can't take a picture of that. Okay, I promised a little bit more practical advice, and I'm just going to touch really quickly on a few of these things. Attach everything to your vest or to yourself. There's still a really good e-collar transmitter sitting on a boulder somewhere because I set it down so I could take a picture and then walked away. Never found it. Of course, there's a lot of boulders out there. So attach it somehow to your vest, a lanyard of some sort. Drink enough water. Most leg cramps are due to dehydration. If you are prone to those, like some of us, maybe even get some of that hydration stuff and add it to your water or buy some hydrating drinks. Make sure you bring those 10 essentials. Here's the minimum. Sure, you can add all sorts of other things, but these are the ones I never leave home without. Duct tape, a map and compass, and yes, I know how to use them. Waterproof matches and an alternate fire starter. A space blanket of one sort or another. Aluminum foil for cooking and signaling. Some way to purify water. Some way to hold water. A whistle and a multi-tool. If you have all of those things, as I tell my wife, I can pretty much survive anything short of a cougar attack for a couple days. And by then, hopefully, my emergency locator beacon has summoned somebody to drag my lifeless body out. Well, there you go. The practical and the philosophical together, it's really about a different dimension of bird hunting. But to me, it's certainly worth a look. If you keep your own calendar all the time or even part of the time, consider scheduling a solo turn with you and your dog. I'm Scott Linden. This is the Upland Nation Podcast, Insider Edition. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please tell a friend and sign up for the newsletter at findbirdhuntingspots.com. These Insider Editions are brought to you by CableGangz Stakeout System, CableGangz.com, and Purina Pro Plan Sport dog food. Thanks for listening. See you on the regular podcast next week.